It was my grandparents that first showed me the Balaclava mill. We drove into the country that Saturday afternoon, pushing further into the past as we traveled down the old Opeongo line. Hanging a right at Dacre, the ghost town of Balaclava was just a few clicks down the Scotch Bush Road. It was an experience that has stuck with me. I was too young at the time to fully appreciate the history in front of my eyes. I felt something though. This old structure was somehow special. It belonged in the past. It was from another time. The Balaclava mill was the last commercially functioning water-powered mill in Ontario. Operations ceased in 1967. The supply of logs had been exhausted, and water power could no longer compete. The building was left to the elements, and the village faded into the pages of ghost town books. It didn't need to end this way. There was a plan to save the mill and the village. What went wrong? Why has the mill not been saved? Water holds a tremendous amount of potential energy. Energy that can be converted into mechanical work to drive machines. Here at Upper Canada Village, Beach's sawmill has been beautifully preserved, a perfect example of what could have been the case for the Balaclava mill. From a time that was simple, this old mill stands proud today and showcases early pioneer life. In 1855, Duncan Ferguson and Donald Cameron harnessed the water's potential energy on Constant Creek, building the Balaclava mill. The mill was sold to the Richards family in 1868, burnt in 1936, was rebuilt using wood from Hunter's Mill just downstream, sold to David Dick in 1957, and closed in 1967.
So my name's Ken Birch. I bought the property. I actually bought the company. The company was under Arthur Dix Limited, and I bought the company back in 2016. My mother and father had a relationship with David Dick, so that was her uncle on that side of my mother's side. When he passed, it was left to his son Arthur, and then Arthur managed the property and so forth. And as Arthur got older, I approached Arthur about purchasing the company at the time, and that's where I bought the company in 2016 from Arthur. My dad, when he was young and got married to my mother, he worked in the mill with David, and for about 2 or 3 years. The system that we see today is much different than it was back then. There was a lot of, we had boom logs out of many different log structures around, and the way the mill was set up, there used to be a walkway or funnel the water away from the dam, and so that wouldn't wash everything out. And then there used to be a track that used to take all the wood chips up into the burner and that kind of stuff. And I wish I had pictures of it back then, but when we were young, you don't appreciate that, right? And now when you're older, you appreciate it, right? So, but my dad can recall a lot of times that there used to be maybe a dozen people here at the time when he was working here. Might have been more, but the stories he used to tell me that they would saw it here and saw the lumber, pile it out into the dry sheds, and then that went on for, I'd say, 3 or 4 years, and then Dave decided to not operate the mill anymore. It was just too much expense versus what the value of it was. He was doing a lot of planing and that kind of stuff. He'd also obviously when you're doing lumber, you're doing a lot of piling, a lot of labor work, doing piling and stuff, and then haul the timber, the lumber up to the dry sheds.
At its peak, Balaclava was outputting 2 million board feet of sawn lumber in a year. This dropped to 200,000 in its final years. For almost 60 years since its last use, the Balaclava mill has continued to stand tall.
When I was younger, I heard my Uncle Dave, my parents talking about Timbertown, and at that time, Timbertown approached my Uncle Dave about buying the property for Timbertown. And they had all the equipment in there with the water wheels, and the buildings were all here and so forth. But I think that deal fell through, right? And then Timbertown went somewhere else and Renfrew and that kind of stuff, but it never materialized. But initially, this was the area that was being sought out to be the Timbertown, and it would have been a pretty cool idea, right? It had everything here for Timbertown. This was a Timbertown. I do get a lot of questions about that. Why wasn't it saved? It should have been preserved. I think it comes down to the cost structure, right? Cost of I think if I would have had it maybe 10 or 20 years ago before that, it could have been done, right? And we could have saved it. But just the amount of work that had to go into preserving that regarding to foundation repairs and just general repairs, and it's just the cost structure. It costs too much to maintain it. Then the biggest thing I have is trespassing, right? That is always the biggest thing, and it's constant, and I think the lack of respect that they have for the old mill, and so we get a lot of vandalism, and it's hard to, even though we put up signs it's not safe and it's no trespassing. People just don't have any respect. I'm hoping that we can have longevity as long as we can, right? Based on where we're at today. It may, based on how it's decaying, right? It may not be around very long, right? And Mother Nature has a big impact on it. And so even though that we could, try to repair and block it off and try to save it as long as we can, I'm not sure how long it's going to last, right? And there's going to be some more repairs going to be done on the bridge, and the ministry approached me about what are we going to do with the mill, and how they need to get into repair. So they may look at taking some of that mill down just to repair the bridge. So it's going to take the whole aspect away of what I see today. Yes, I think the days are very numbered. Based on when I mentioned when we had vandalism and knocking out the tin off the roofs, with the Mother Nature coming in, it has an impact of rotting the floors out, and that's what's going on now. And if the tin was still on and it wasn't knocked off, then I think the days would have been a lot longer. But when the Mother Nature takes in play, I see it. The floors are rotting, and it's gone too far, right? And too far for repair now. And so I agree with the days are numbered.
Yeah.
You know, that's a dilemma. What we could do with it. And I remember as a kid of what it used to look like. And unfortunately, we didn't have a lot of pictures. We didn't take pictures back then. And this is only a small piece of what it used to look like with all the sheds and all the water chutes and all the way you can divert the water and that kind of stuff was pretty cool. Like now I appreciate it, but back then as a kid I didn't, right? And so it's too bad. I was talking to my uncle this morning and I said, if that, when you look out you see it, and if that's gone at some time, it'll look like a hole. You'll be missing. It's a piece of history gone forever, right?
Yeah.
And that is, it'll be a sad day when that happens, right? So, but
The mill could have been saved and turned into a museum, much like Beach's Mill at Upper Canada Village. Timbertown was an ambitious project dreamed up in the 50s to create an amusement park based around the history of logging in the Ottawa Valley. When the project hit major obstacles and financial trouble, the Balaclava mill, along with the village buildings, was offered up for use by the Dick family. A perfect, picturesque village with the last water-powered mill of its kind. The offer was turned down. The mill could have been saved. Not everything has been lost, though. In 1985, the Canadian Museum of Science and Technology, located in Ottawa, removed all the machinery and moved it to their Ingenium facility for preservation. The machinery survives to this day.
I'm Will Knight. I'm Curator of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry at Ingenium here in Ottawa.
And I'm André Dessin, former Assistant Curator to Forestry at Canadian Museum of Science and Technology.
So Ingenium is the National Science and Technology Museum Corporation. It was established in 1967 to preserve Canada's scientific and technological history. So we're here in the Ingenium Centre, which was built over the last several years and is officially opening this spring. But it houses 80,000 objects, which is the majority of our collection. And that covers agriculture, which I'm responsible for, communications, energy, domestic technology. I'll probably leave things out, but it's a massive collection that spans Canadian innovation in those fields, but also represents objects that Canadians typically use, day to day in agriculture especially. We collected the entire contents of a sawmill near Dacre, Ontario, on the Constant Creek. That was established in 1867, operated for almost 100 years. And in 1985, we collected the entire contents of the sawmill. That's not something we would do now. We are much more selective in terms of choosing objects, but nevertheless, we selected the entire contents, brought them to Ottawa, and so that collection is here now. And Andre was really actually important. He had retired at that point, but Andre had visited the sawmill in the 1980s, 87, and so he actually had seen the mill. He had met the last owners of the mill, the Dicks. And he knows the collection really much better than I do. You can look at a piece and identify it right away.
And part of that visit was to try to identify where every pieces of the puzzle went inside the original mill building. And it was quite helpful to walk around with Mr. Dick and his son, who, as a kid, was working in the sawmill with his dad. And the visit was also to record and understand the process from the log to the finished product, starting from the power source, the turbines, up to the finished product to the loading dock, basically.
Yes, you have the logs were coming up this way. Cut the gang. Saw was there. Main slopes.
Andre, sure these maybe aren't your shots, this one?
No, because
This is 1998.
those might be my shots. But... yeah, those are my shots.
Old mills are fascinating. The building itself is the machine, and it's built directly on top of the power source. Gears and pulleys and belts, all woven through the building. Shafts and chutes and clicking and clacking. The building was alive. The history of the Balaclava mill could have been so different. Instead of my grandparents taking me to an abandoned mill, they could have been taking me to a living museum that paid tribute to our logging history. But maybe it's not too late. The mill is still hanging on for dear life, holding on to a time that no longer exists, and a way of life that was a little less complicated. Maybe there's still hope. Maybe Balaclava can still be saved.